Good evening. It is 5:30 PM on Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. And this regular meeting of the Sandpoint Planning and Zoning Commission is now called to order in council chambers at City Hall, 1123 West Lake Street, Sandpoint, Idaho. For the record, I am Vice Chairman Mose Dunkel presiding. Also present are Commissioners Grant Simmons, myself, Slate Camp, Ben McGran, and Wayne Benner. Commissioner Amelia Boyd is participating remotely, and Commissioner John Hastings is absent. If everyone will please stand, we will now recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God.
indivisible,
Justice for all.
justice
Takes a while for that everybody assumes zero latency.
All right, thanks, Amelia. Are there any general announcements from commissioners or from staff?
Mr. Chairman, just a reminder, the second open house for the comprehensive plan is Thursday from 5 to 7 in this room.
Thursday this week.
Correct.
Okay. Any other announcements? Okay, moving on. We'll need approval of the minutes from our previous meeting of November 7th, 2023.
Motion to approve. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes and the minutes are approved. New business. Next item is a review and discussion of the downtown waterfront design final report. I will now yield the floor to City Planner Amy Tweeten for an introduction of this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to briefly go through the final report of the downtown waterfront design competition and really what council laid out as next steps. So again, the final report was accepted by City Council on November 15th, and they accepted it as a visioning document or framework for future work on code amendments and capital projects. The final report was developed to further the stated 11 goals of the design competition, which include protecting water, acknowledging the tribe's unique relationship, celebrating history, enhancing year-round recreation, generating economic development opportunities. So these were the 11 goals laid out at the beginning of the process that all the teams that went through were incorporating into their designs. And that the final report is trying to wrap all these things together. Council also, as they accepted the plan, gave direction to staff to schedule follow-up public workshops on building heights and historic preservation, land use and zoning, and the city beach concept and proposed carousel. The first phase of the workshops will be scheduled for the first quarter of 24. And the focus of those will be the land use planning and historic preservation recommendations of the report. Again, the outcome of the workshops will be recommended code amendments and policies that will further refine the recommendations that are currently in the report. Basically taking what's in the report to the next level. So there's a lot in the report, and what I'm going to go through tonight are more of the focus on the land use planning zoning recommendations. I'm not going to get into the recommendations on the park improvements or the streetscapes because this is really the focus of the Planning and Zoning Commission is taking the report and getting additional public input and developing codes that implement and reflect what the community is asking for. So in the report, there are recommendations on building massing, facade widths and proportions, restricting ground floor commercial uses to create that pedestrian scape, and activating public spaces. And also the report provided these building massing studies that compare what the mass of buildings under the current zoning code allow, and then what are alternatives to that, both in terms of height, where you start stepping back the building at what height. Again, throughout this process, the community was very concerned about building heights based on concepts that they had seen come forward. Again, the concepts that are in the report are just that. We do not have applications for any of these properties, but these are all concepts property owners have been working on. And based on feedback from the community, there is a lot of concern about both losing historic character and just having buildings of a scale that are out of proportion with what current buildings are. The report also includes recommendations on overlay districts. Again, the commercial A is the current zoning district that covers all of downtown. So what this recommendation is creating overlay zones that could have different regulations. Again, the historic core being First and Cedar, that is the red hatched area. The granary district is in blue. And then the purple is again the current commercial A. So what are, and you know, is this the exact boundary of these overlay zones? And what do those overlay zones mean are yet to be determined through further refinement and engagement. And then that black boundary, the black line is the proposed historic district to incorporate all of the historic district, all of the identified historic structures. And then there's also, it's a little hard to see, the view corridors are these light blue. Let's see here. These light blue areas where they're pointing out the importance of the view shed, view corridors. Again, speaking to that broader boundary, with that black line is shown in red. This is what's being proposed as a new local historic district boundary that would include regulations to protect existing historic structures. Currently, we have a National Register district that is an honorary district and does not have protections. And there's also a recommendation for a design review board where developments that came through would go through a review process.
Amy, could you go back a slide real quick?
Mm-hmm.
It's just one thing I want to see. Thanks.
Okay. So again, the recommendations from the design competition report are really the starting point that will then be further refined. We'll have those initial workshops to provide an opportunity for the community to have additional input on future codes and policies for downtown. And obviously the two bodies that will be very involved with that will be the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Arts, Culture, and Historic Preservation Commission. Again, what those workshops will be are not completely determined at this point. We're still working on it, but the goal is to have those in starting mid-January. And then again, getting to the point where we have code language drafted by the end of the first quarter of next year. So that was kind of just my overview of the design report, focusing on those land use and zoning recommendations. If there are other items that the commission would like to go through and discuss, I'm happy to bring up the full report. But that's just, the commission wasn't integrally involved in the development of the report, so knowing what these next steps are, and that because this ultimately will result in code changes, this is a body that's going to be very involved in that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So Amy, can you maybe give a little more background on what triggered the design competition? Like, was there a catalyst to this?
There were multiple kind of things that came together. One was these developments that were kind of being shown, Bridge and First as an example. So there was a concern of the community of what are the development requirements for downtown. There was also additional concern about just taking all of the different plans we had. So we had the plan for in the Park and Recreation plan for City Beach. How do we get that to the next step? Stormwater management and all of Sand Creek, and improving not only along Sand Creek public access, but also City Beach. So there were multiple kind of planning efforts that had gone over. In addition, we're going to be starting phase 3 of the downtown streetscape. So just bringing all of those together to try to have a cohesive vision and guide for the future of downtown.
It just seems a little odd or maybe out of sequence to me because we're working on the comprehensive plan. And we haven't gotten that through and approved yet. But we have all these kind of side things going on that don't seem to align very well. So I guess there's just that concern that how does this potentially conflict with something that we've been doing with the comprehensive plan? And I'm not sure if you had that chance to do that analysis yet, but is there anything that you're seeing out of this report that would conflict with what we've put into the comprehensive plan to date, the proposed updated comprehensive plan?
No, and when this process started, the direction of council was that this was going to be pulled into the comprehensive plan as an appendix. And that is the way it's laid out right now, is that this is Appendix E, I believe, to the plan. But this is really just it's a visionary, long-term document focused just on downtown.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of goals and objectives in the comprehensive plan related to downtown and historic preservation and community character. So I don't see that this plan at all conflicts with it. And again, it also is a visionary document. And what parts of it get implemented is going to be an ongoing discussion. I mean, it's like any plan. It's like the Park and Recreation plan or the multimodal master plan, which are all also kind of incorporated into the comprehensive plan. A plan can't get implemented if funding isn't put forward to implement those projects.
Mhm.
And so that's really how priorities become established, is what are the projects that are getting funded.
Thank you.
Questions?
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I just, when we talk about the height restrictions, we're only really looking at First Avenue area. What about the rest of town, which would still be abiding by the old restrictions if we change just those within that Xed out area?
Well, And again, the recommendations, and again, at this point, they are just recommendations and we're gonna be going through, but the recommendation for that First Avenue and Cedar Street is to reduce the height to 55 feet and then do the step back at 35 feet, which is seen as more the existing height or the height of the other buildings in that corridor. I believe the recommendation at this point in the granary is to leave the existing height limitation that's in the commercial A. And that probably would, at this point, is also the recommendation, although I don't know that it's spelled out in what is not in the red and is not in the blue. So the rest of commercial A. But again, ultimately what the building height in any of these zones is yet to be determined, but that was a recommendation because the real concern is First and Cedar and the historic buildings that are there and making sure redevelopment either that our code isn't encouraging tear downs of historic structures to get more height, or that even if the structures themselves aren't historic, they are dominating the feel of the street. But the red area is where the current recommendation for the 55-foot height limit is.
Yeah, it just seems kind of strange going right down the alley instead of looking at the buildings on,
Instead of going where?
instead of saying going right down Second Avenue or something, yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Amy, was there any language in there relative to like context height? You know, everybody's sensitive about height, but was there any thought around what's the height relative to the thing next to it? Meaning, I mean, a height restriction is one thing, but it only looks odd when it's out of place in the thing next to it. You know what I mean? Does
Right.
that make sense? Was there anything relative to that?
I don't think so, no. And again, that can all be,
Yeah, okay. That's the
Looks-
finer tuning.
right,
Got it.
right.
All right.
Yep. And again, it isn't, and because there are these other recommendations, it isn't only about height, it's about placement, massing, window percentage. A lot of that is already in our code, and it's just making sure that whatever's in the code, it does correspond to what is currently in place. So this, and to the point that, yes, there's been a lot of other things going on at the same time as a comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
We do, again, we can start working towards changing codes. We can do workshops, we can draft code. But until the comprehensive plan is adopted, that gives us this direction, we really can't be adopting those codes. We can be working towards them, but we need the comprehensive plan to give us the founding for changing the codes.
So the highlighted in red area, what I'm hearing is it's more about the historic preservation of that area than that a building could be too tall or take up too much area.
It's more than historic preservation because a lot of the buildings in that stretch are not contributing historic structures. So everything pretty much on the east side of First Avenue is not a contributing historic structure other than the bridge. But it's making sure the redevelopment that does happen isn't overwhelming the historic character of the community.
And that mandate has come from public input. Like the arts preservation aspect of this.
Well, I think that's coming from your comprehensive plan.
Okay,
I mean, it's in your comprehensive plan, but I also think the public input that has been received on the actual designs for the waterfront competition had a lot of input on that as well.
okay. I tend to agree that the area does, I mean, I understand better now, but the rest of the purple area has relaxed freedom on this topic, and it's right across the alley in some point, well, in a lot of it. But those lines could be adjusted, you know.
Right, yeah. Again, this is a report, this is a recommendation that we need to refine before we turn anything into code. And again, what I would say, again, this is focusing on, you know, there's a lot of discussion of historic preservation, but there is also the discussion of your downtown is your most dense area. That is where you want your density. And if we're going to encourage housing and or workforce housing in a small area, it needs height. So that is it as you're going in towards the middle of this area in the purple, that those, maybe it isn't 65 feet, maybe it's more than that. Most likely not, but again, it's all about, I mean, it's similar to our discussion of the ADUs. It's balancing many different goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan.
Good news. That's why we're here.
All right, any other comments, discussion?
On the implementation, towards the end of the document, it talks about URA. Is that the Urban Renewal Agency? Is that that's the funding
Urban
mechanism?
Renewal Agency, correct.
And so those would be taxes that would be implemented to cover costs for implementation?
Urban renewal is basically a tax increment financing mechanism. So when you create the district, there's a base valuation, a base value that is frozen, and so the community continues to collect the base valuation. Any increase in value as a result of increased assessments or new development gets captured within the boundary of the urban renewal area and can get reinvested into that area for public infrastructure. And identified, there's a plan and there's projects spelled out of what those dollars can be used for and what the priorities are. And obviously, stormwater management is a big one, how we're gonna fund improvements and streetscapes and things like that. So the urban renewal area is a funding mechanism for redevelopment.
Mhm. And would that potentially be consideration for like an additional sales tax ad or something like that, like City of Ponderay has done?
No, that's
No.
that's different.
That's different.
This is just capturing property taxes
Gotcha.
in a designated area.
And that's already in place and been working for quite a while in many parts of the city, right?
Right, there's currently the urban renewal district that is downtown, and then there is the northern urban renewal district that is the area, a lot of the industrial area, Great Northern or Baldy and Great Northern area, and that money is the priority project for that area is the reconstruction of Great Northern.
Mhm.
So there is a current urban renewal area downtown And there has been discussion of whether that gets renewed, whether it gets expanded. So those are all things yet to be determined.
I got lots of thoughts. Not sure we need to get into it tonight.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
lots more time for more discussion
Yeah.
and more detailed topics.
Yes.
All right, looking forward to it.
Okay.
Well, moving on.
Moving on.
Final item on the agenda is a development update presentation, and I will yield the floor once again to City Planner Amy Tweeten.
This is, I believe I've given this to the commission before, and it's city council requests quarterly development updates, and sometimes I remember to give it to you and sometimes I don't, but this time I did remember. Again, this is year to date. This is applications, this is planning and zoning. So again, we are nowhere near where we were last year, but we are for planning and zoning, pretty on par with previous years other than 2022.
Yeah.
Actually, I think this fourth quarter we have quite a few applications that aren't final yet and that we are expecting. So, fourth quarter probably will exceed 2021, or it may exceed 2021. Building permits, these numbers are through November 30th. And again, as what happens is 2022, we had a lot going through planning and zoning. That means the next few years that's reflected in building permits. So through November 30th, we're already above where we were in 2022 for building permits.
Could you, Amy, could you go back to real quick?
Mhm.
Yeah, one more.
One more.
Thanks. So application. So how do I think of like applications to permits? Like what's the median time between that? Do you have a sense?
It really depends on
Because here you
the
could see where,
application.
yeah,
So
here you could see where
these-
the interest rates hit.
Right,
Right.
but these are, again, most of these things go through planning and zoning at least, and or city council. So it goes, so these are subdivisions that go through and some of the data that I show you later on
Okay.
it'll give you a good idea of how long it takes from the time a subdivision is approved, which, you know, that's a preliminary final plat is probably a good 2-year process. So yeah, some of this will provide that information. So again, this is building permits issued of all kinds. But this is what I know everybody is very interested. This isn't residential this chart isn't permits issued. This is how many dwelling units have been issued through the third quarter. And that's not right. That's not September 30th. This is actually through November. So 102 units year to date. 50% of those are in multifamily buildings, 32% are single family, and 18% are accessory dwelling units. So this table gets a little too Commissioner Simmons, this is where we're trying, because there is such a lag in when a development is approved and when permits are actually issued. So this is showing subdivisions, year approved, what type of development they are, where they are on the area map. And then through September, although I think again, this table has to be up to, because I believe this is through November. These numbers are how many units have been. certificate of occupancy or temporary. So Silver Wings again is, and this is just for this year. So, but if you look at the subdivisions approved in 2020, there were quite a few of them, but a lot of them are very slow on certificates of occupancy.
Could you send this out? Thank you.
And then on multifamily projects, again, we have seen, particularly with the Samuelsons, and Seasons, that, we are getting more units coming online. Again, these have been in the works for a while. And those are finally coming and getting close to having occupancy. And then there's also,
Do you have a sense if is that sort of average? Like if we think of, I mean, that's quite a spread. There's a lot of zeros in that last column.
right,
You know what I mean?
there are, and there's,
There's probably a lot of, yeah, okay, we don't have to get into it now.
yeah, I couldn't tell you what the average is, but I mean, you can see, obviously the economy and interest rates
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
definitely impacted housing construction. So then we also have, preliminary plats that have been approved. So we had in 2000, we had University Place Phase 2B and Phase 3. And that's 45 lots. Those have not yet come to final plat. So those are very close to going beyond the 3-year but there's a time limit between a preliminary plat and when a final plat has to come through. And then Boyer Farms Phase 2, the infrastructure is in, but they don't have their roads in yet, but that was approved in 2022. So that's another 25. At your last meeting, you heard the update on the Tribute building. So that's 148 units. And then the Lights Out West Point development is another 102 units. So that gives a little, because we used to just show you what are all the, what are all the developments that have been approved, but this is trying to give you a little better, time frame of how long it takes once something's approved to actually see housing coming out of the ground.
That's good. That's the best.
And I think, yep,
Thank you. Thank you.
So that is all I have on that for an update.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, I don't know if Grant had said this, he cut out a little bit, but Amy, is there any way that could get emailed to us so we could, digest that a little more and get into the details of this report?
Yeah, I'll clean it up because typically we try to do it at the end of the quarter. But we were asked to get it as close to current as possible. So like some of these headings are not actually correct. These should all be through November. So I'll clean it up and send it out.
Perfect, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, Amy, I think Seasons should be in area 6. I think it shows it in
Oh.
area 2.
See,
For your record.
seasons. You're right.
Mhm. Yeah, it is pretty wild how many are zeros. So all the stuff that we've seen come through,
Yeah.
a lot of it is not.
Breaking ground.
hit.
Although the zeros on the multifamily, those are going, between Samuelson's family seniors and the Rigid Cedar, those are all the Samuelsons, I thought it was family. Something about this is not striking me as right, but or the seniors are getting very close to finaling. Those buildings are,
Yeah,
at least a few of them.
Hmm.
So the year end, or at least first quarter, we will have a lot of those as issue.
yeah, and the ridge at Cedar. They're close.
Yes,
From-
they're very, yeah, they mainly just have site work to do, and of course, it's not the best time to do site work. But they are very close.
To be honest, I'm not sure what to expect, right? Like, I don't know if this is weird or whatever, but yeah. Be interesting to sort of bake it. You could figure out sort of a interesting stat to track, which would be average time to new household. That you just sort of track over time relative to sort of like how fast are we growing? Anyway. I gotta be honest, this water feature is super soothing.
It's not the worst. Wait, any
No, I'm
comments?
good.
Grant?
I was just looking at the 2007, 2008 Silver Wings Timberlines.
The Silver Wings.
I-
What is,
I
what
can
is,
only speculate.
what is the status of Silver Wings?
They're still waiting for people who
Um,
want to live with their airplanes.
No, we actually have an application for another building out there, so they've resolved the issue with the airport and they plan on moving ahead. How many actually will be built is yet to be determined, but they are starting to work on it. Again,
There's a couple it's been a little while, but I've seen a couple that were listed for sale. Out of, I don't know how many are completed that have been empty for a long time.
yeah, there's two, or the two sides of the one,
Mhm.
One building, two sides.
right?
They're spectacular too, which,
They're very nice looking.
yeah. With a large garage. For the record, I'd love to have one. I'll live by the airport. Okay.
Nothing else.
No, fine.
Okay, this is the time where we open for public comments. Do we have anybody in attendance who would just love to speak on any discussion, anything they'd like to, I imagine?
We do have one person.
One person, all right, welcome.
If you'll just give us a second to set up the timer.
Is there anybody on Zoom tonight observing? Oh, come on, community, what are we doing?
Two attendees.
Watch your back.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Jeremy, 1 second.
Jeremy, watch your back.
Yeah, it might get wet.
If it starts coming, jump.
Thank you, Jeremy, for your patience. Start at any time.
All right, thank you, commissioners. Jeremy Grimm for the record. I'm going to ask for maybe a little extra time just because I want to speak to a couple things and hopefully that's not problematic. I want to first touch on the downtown waterfront design competition. Great question. I think Ben asked it. How did it start? It actually started in part with a $25,000 grant that I processed for the Lore Foundation to the city to address stormwater behind the Canada Theater, the outlet there. And it kind of crapped a little bit, the project. So it got a little bigger. And I guess, really appreciate staff, Amy's, presentation and, you know, clearly we're at a bit of a transition next month when I'll be becoming mayor, sworn in. And, you know, I think looking at the runway here, you know, comp plan, for me at least, priority. I mean, downtown, competition, it's a part of the city, but the comp plan, I think someone, maybe it was Ben, brought it up that, you know, we've got a lot of other pieces to this. So, you know, as we look at sort of the feedback from that competition, I think it's something you'll want to incorporate into your future zoning and code revisions. I'm not fully up to speed at how vigorous and thorough the public engagement was on that. My perception was that it was some farmer market and maybe some more people from outside of town than inside of town. So I want to make sure that we get it right and that the residents are fully behind that and through that process. But there are some challenges to what's being discussed about the heights. You know, you've heard of this thing called the takings, and it's kind of hard to put the horse back in the barn if somebody's bought a piece of property and they expect do a pro forma based on 60 feet or whatever their anticipation was for their value-backed investment there. So we're gonna have to work through that just to figure out how we do that without you know, triggering a bunch of concerns from landowners. And then there's this other conflict, right? A lot of you were here in 2010, I think it was, when Coldwater went belly up. And I know Grant was 13, thank you.
Yeah.
I did a survey downtown, just walked and checked all the stores, and we had like 40% vacancy downtown. And you know, one of the ways you fight that is to put heartbeats downtown. And as Amy said, I mean, to have people living downtown 24/7 is critical to having a vibrant, active downtown. So we're gonna have to sort of balance that. How do we do that? In light of the fact that a lot of those buildings, if any of you've been up in the upper floors, it's really hard to retrofit them because they're roof material. If you insulate them and make them efficient, they hold more snow, and a lot of that roof material actually can't hold the snow loads. So we kind of have this challenge of how do you encourage residential?
Hey, we're gonna give you a few more minutes,
Thank you.
and can we keep it to that?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
good?
yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
thanks.
all right. So that's just another challenge that we're gonna have to work through. In terms of your code revisions coming up, you know, when we did it in 2009, it was a 3-year process to work through all the zones and to tweak them. It's a lot of work, and appreciate you volunteering for this because it's gonna take a while. And I recommend, and I'll have some more input next month, but where we start on that and you know, what pieces make the most sense, assuming that the comp plan gets adopted. And then just on the development side, you know, interesting, right? All those building permits, that activity, or those applications, the activity, but very few building permits, 102 units this year. If you do the rough math, that's about 2.9% growth. If we have 3,400 units in town, it's about 2.9% growth. And you may recall in the comp plan, the existing comp plan, the historical trend and the projected trend was 2.5% growth. So our growth, I know a lot of people are saying it's out of control and crazy. A lot of that's in the county, but it's tracking pretty well. And from the clients I work with, I would guess at least 30% of the projects never get built out. So all those subdivisions, they may go defunct, they may get vacated, they may get reapplied for, they may switch ownership. But the inventory out there is going to get filled over years and years and years, not a year. And then finally, I think you're aware there's about 500 multifamily units if you count up what Amy mentioned and what's going up in Ponderay. I think we're going to have a housing glut, and there's going to be a price war. I've been talking to some property managers. They're already seeing huge softening. They're having a hard time getting people to sign leases. And I think that's going to be really good for Sandpoint because for the first time in 20 years, we're gonna have a surplus of housing. And I think that will help attract businesses who've always wanted to move here, year-round businesses not tied to tourism. And they'll finally have the affordable housing that their employees will need for them to move and grow here. So thanks for your time. Thanks for your work that y'all do. I know a couple you're up for reappointment. And I'm not quite sure how that's going to take place at this point. But thanks for your service and look forward to working with you.
Do we have anybody else?
We do not.
Someone on Zoom.
One on Zoom? Maybe? Would the participant on Zoom like to speak?
Yes, they have their hand raised.
Let me try now. Hi, Clay Hutchison, Sandpoint resident. Just wanted to let you know there are some people in Zoom land that do tune into these things, even though it doesn't show up. So we do appreciate your work, and I think you'll see more and more public involvement, hopefully in person, but also on Zoom as we all go forward. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else pop up?
If anyone else on Zoom would like to speak, please raise your hand at this time. There are no other folks on Zoom who would like to speak.
Okay, now is the time for a commissioner roundtable. Which is,
Mr. Chair.
yes,
Amy, do we know when the proposed code, changes for ADU are going to the city council?
I do not have a date yet for that, no.
Thank you.
and comp plan, we're kind of public involvement could be potentially more adjustments, revisions.
Right now, my understanding is we'll hold the second open house. All of those, all the input we receive will go to city council. I don't know if they're gonna have a special meeting or they'll discuss it at a regular meeting, that I don't know yet. They'll go through those, decide what to incorporate, what not to incorporate. I don't know that they will send it back to you. That is an option that they could send it back to you, but I don't know, they don't have to send it back to you. But if they are they'll be making enough changes, I anticipate that they're going to have to hold another public hearing. So I don't really foresee at the earliest the plan being adopted much before March at this point.
Well, Mr. Chair,
Yes,
why wouldn't they just kick it down to us to make that incorporation and review?
Sorry?
Why wouldn't they just kick it down to planning and zoning to incorporate that feedback and review to
Why
send back
would
up
or
through them?
wouldn't they?
Yeah. I mean, why does it go back to city council instead of coming back up through planning and zoning?
Because city council is the one that asked for the additional input.
Oh, well, could ask for a little
So
more.
again, they could say planning and zoning, take all this input.
Yeah.
Make revisions, send it back, or they could decide which revisions they want to make. I don't know which way they will
We'll
go.
see. Okay.
from the first open house, do you have like a top three concern that came up or comments that were popular or?
I
Or
can
can you
say I
speak?
have not reviewed the comments. Sarah transcribed the comments, so I don't know if she had an idea of what common comments were.
Sure. So we did have many comments on commercial zoning district heights. That was a common theme. We had some recommendations for using the Baldy Disc Golf Course as a park. We had some input on focusing spending on infrastructure and streets. We had comments on heritage trees. Those were some key highlights.
What was the participation like over the course of a couple hours? How many people from the city, people from out of the city?
I don't know that we asked, but I'd say we were 40 to 50. Is that what we came up with?
About 40 to 50 people, but we didn't ask whether they were residents or non-residents.
So is it important to us that they're residents or non-residents? Personally, I feel like it is important. Because there is differing opinions inside and outside the city. Not like across the board, but it seems like it leans one way in and out. I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I know when we take comments, people should say where, if they live in the city or not, so.
We'll add that to our sign-in sheet for
Okay,
Thursday.
all right.
Amy, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, taxpayer costs with this all these extra workshops and time, roughly whereabout do you think?
The costs of the workshops?
Yeah, just the extra time it's taking for because I know that we've got, oh gosh, remind me her name from
Oh, Miriam?
Miriam, and the time it takes and how much this will add to taxpayers.
Well, Miriam is not been involved in these additional workshops other than putting it up on Conveo. Just because we are very close to the end of our budget with Logan Simpson. And what she had indicated is, there's probably enough in the budget for them to incorporate proposed changes, but they did not budget for additional workshops. So the workshops have been, staff has been preparing them and staffing them.
So it'll be minimal.
Yeah, it's staff time essentially,
Okay.
and materials and refreshments. So yeah, no, it's a significant amount of staff time, but we aren't spending at this point anything on the consultant.
Good to know. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I think that, at least from my standpoint, I was there at the workshop. And a lot of the people I talked to, I think were one step ahead of that workshop because they were talking about zoning. They were getting into the next rules and regulations. I think the height part was brought up quite a bit. And what can I do with my property? It didn't really get into some of the concepts of the comp plan as much as it was more kind of the next level.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me too. Hopefully, I mean, my opinion is hopefully we can move forward with the comp plan. If there is stuff that is a glaring defect that should be easy to fix or revise. But yeah, at this point, it sounds like March is optimistic with what potentially could happen. New council, could be a hang up for a period of time, and this stuff has taken a long time already, so another 6 months is totally fine. If more time to get it just right. That's the name of the game now. All right, any more discussion? Well, I'm ready to adjourn unless there's anything else. I'd like to thank everybody who attended in person and online. With no further business before the commission, this meeting is now adjourned at 6:25.
Thanks, man.